morning again. Good morning, Chair, board members, Madam CEO, staff, and members of the public. I'll just remind everyone to please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices for the entire meeting. If you're a presenter or a speaking board member, please speak directly and loudly into the microphone, ensuring that the light on the microphone is green before beginning to speak. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair, there are no members of the public wishing to provide comments. As such, we may proceed with the regular calendar. The first order of business is a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting held on Friday, April 26, 2024. Board, do I have a motion?
So move.
Vice Chair? Was that Vice Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Seconded by?
Got it.
Thank you. Member, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. Chair, I invite you to make remarks as you wish.
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Madam CEO, I also invite you to make remarks.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to give a couple of brief updates. First, on ERAP and rental arrears. As of April 30th, 2024, tenant arrears totaled $449 million. We're continuing in our final stage of distributing ERAP payments to our residents in partnership with OTDA. We've submitted payment requests on behalf of 29,000 households, totaling $156 million. Payments received from OTDA totals about $147 million, and we have distributed to 24,393 resident accounts, totaling over $144 million. Truly a Herculean effort by our friends in the finance department, in the legal department, in the CEO's office, and in IT. So I just want to thank everyone for their incredible work.
What about me?
Oh, and of course, Jamie, our trustee board chair. Next, I have some really great updates on the New York City Housing Preservation Trust. I'm happy to say that we have made a tremendous amount of progress since last month. We launched the pre-development planning exercises at Bronx River Addition with a very well-attended meeting last week. And so we now officially have 2 sites under pre-development ahead of converting to the trust. The trust, in partnership with NYCHA, has released the request for qualifications for Nostrand Houses and Bronx River Addition, the first step in the design-build process. This is a major milestone, and I am really grateful for all of the hard work from our NYCHA partners and our trust staff to get to this point. At our next 2 voting sites, Coney Island and Coney Island 1 Site 1B, which is also known as Unity Towers, we're about halfway through our 100 days of engagement. Our voting team has done a series of very well-attended public meetings and are now shifting towards individual engagement, making sure that any eligible voter who wishes to understand both the process and the voting options can do so. Voting at those 2 sites will begin on July 17th and will end on August 15th, 2024. I now have a very exciting update in our Section 8 program. I am excited to share that for the first time in 15 years, NYCHA will reopen the waitlist for its Housing Choice Voucher Section 8 program. Applications will be accepted from Monday, June 3rd, 2024 at midnight through Sunday, June 9th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Once the application period closes, NYCHA will randomly place 200,000 applications onto the waitlist via a lottery process. The waitlist is expected to be established by August 1st, 2024. And NYCHA, I don't know if most of you know that NYCHA runs the most expansive Section 8 program in the country. We have over 100,000 vouchers on the street. And we know that there's a really severe affordable housing crisis in New York City. So we are really looking forward to reopening the wait list for this critical and much needed subsidy. Next, I would like to introduce Leroy Williams. We have a wonderful presentation. He is NYCHA's Vice President for Resident Services, and he will be presenting today on our Resident Services Partnership and Initiatives summer programs for our residents. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As Lisa said, my name is Leroy Williams, and I'm the Vice President of Resident Services for RISP. I know we have a long name, so it's Resident Services Partnerships and Initiatives, and we'll be talking about our summer programs this year. So we'll be going through the most fun time of the summer, family days. I know everyone here loves family days. Summer meal programs, our farms and gardens, our NYCHA Teen Expansion Program, the Summer Youth Employment Program, and NYCHA Youth Build Program. So family days. So we've all been to them, hopefully, and if we haven't, this year, I expect to see everyone there. I know, Mr. Gonzalez, you go to many of them. So family days have been celebrated at NYCHA for many decades. It's really a time for community to get together, really get to know each other, really, bond with each other. It's also a time for NYCHA staff and our partners at NYPD to really garner a better relationship overall. I want to point out that our PAC sites, although they're not public housing, they still do family days. Yes, I know. I got you. I'm on here. So they do family days. So we still assist them in the family days overall, but our PAC partners are the ones that are leading the charge with the resident associations. Of course, NYCHA staff is encouraged to participate, and we already have a sign up for our NYCHA staff, and we'll be sharing with all of you the listing so that you can sign up also to volunteer. The time frames for family days are 12 to 7. At 6 o'clock, all amplified music, any kind of loud music, it has to go off so that they can make sure that they start cleaning up to make sure it ends on the proper time. Our partners at NYPD provides oversight for all family days. And then again, as I stated, they really take the opportunity to work with NYCHA to really bond with our residents. New York is a large city. We don't have the great relationship that we have with NYPD. So this is like the perfect opportunity for all of us to fellowship with them. How does NYCHA staff support family days? So thank you to operations. They provide assistance with setup and breakdown. NYCHA departments set up resource tables to share information and also to conduct surveys and provide connections to external partners through participation. So, of course, we want to make sure you want to be able to learn about health. You want to learn about other NYCHA departments. You want to learn if I can get a job. All these different times, we are really working hard this year to make sure that each family day has at least 10 tables at each of the family days, because again, it's fun, it's a great time of joy and pride, but we want to make sure that you're getting something out of this. So as I said, get involved. So we'll be working with Vilma's Office of the Secretary to share the link with the board members, and NYCHA staff is also encouraged to participate in the family day events. Next, I'll be speaking about the Summer Meals Program. So we're entering our third year of partnership with NYC Department of Education and the resident leadership to host summer meal programs. The programs operate Monday through Friday from June 27th to August 30th. And that's generally the time when the kids are out of school, and we want to make sure that, some kids unfortunately don't get the meals they're supposed to have. And also NYCHA, because we're so vast and widespread, there are areas where the schools are not offering meals. So we work with DOE to make sure we open summer meals locations. So the eligible developments must be 10 minutes away from a NYC DOE school. Developments are close to a school can pick up. So we are funded through DOE for 15 right now sites. We are hoping to get a little bit more, but any site that is close to a school, they can volunteer to pick up and give out in their resident association offices or other locations in the development. Our NYCHA Farms and Gardens. On April 13th, approximately 200 NYCHA-based gardeners launched the 2024 season at the Season of Growth Summit. Summer programming at our 9 farms at NYCHA sites start June 9th with our farm stand kickoff events and at the 6 Green City Force operated developments. So I did want to point out that Wagner, Astoria, Bayview, Forest, Howard, and Mariners Harbor have active farms that anytime that you want to come to it, just let us know. It's a great thing. The kids, it's really intergenerational. So if you see Family Day there, you can do 2 things at one time. Okay. The Farms and Gardens unit will support resident gardeners across the city by connecting with them with information and technical support. So our community programs and facilities. So of course we have a vast amount of community facilities on NYCHA grounds. We're operating 130 community centers for summer day camp this year. The older adult centers, 107 will be operating. And daycare centers, there will be 77 of them operating throughout the summer. So there's an opportunity for youth, adults, and of course, in the community centers, we pointed out the daycare centers, but in the evenings, and which I'll get into later, besides just teen programming, they do offer adult program through the summer. The Teen Expansion Program. So we work with our partners at DYCD, and also we have another about 20 community centers that are not directly sponsored by Cornerstone to operate teen expansion programs from July 8th to August 30th. This is for youth ages 13 to 24. It will be located at 123 NYCHA community centers across the city, open 7 days a week. I know that's a big point I want to make. This is every single day that the centers will be open. Monday through Friday from 6 to 11 p.m. and Saturday and Sundays from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Of course, they do activities like visual arts, spoken word, computer labs, basketball tournaments. It's really a time where we really want to make sure that the teenagers, as we all see because they're not in school, are not just wandering the streets, and we want to make sure they have something productive to do. We also are in partnership with NYPD community affairs officers who are assigned to each community center. And they're just not there just to stand there for security purposes. They actively do programming with the children. And my staff and myself, we go out and make sure that, these are enriched programs that we really want to tutor our kids and mentor our kids. The Summer Youth Employment Program. So SYP offers NYCHA preferences across its community application processes under its MAP to Success and Career First programs. This gives opportunity for workforce for youth ages 14 to 24 who resides in one of the below developments. So we have a listing of all the developments that are a part of this program. They are earned New York State minimum wage of $16 an hour and work up to 25 hours per week for 6 weeks in July and August. Also, we work to secure work sites at NYCHA departments for youth enrolled in SYP. There's currently 39 work sites with 101 possible availabilities. Next, we have NYCHA Child Care's Business Pathway Program. This is a program that's 15 weeks free program, right? created for public housing Section 8 voucher holders to start and grow successful home-based childcare businesses as part of New York City's effort to support entrepreneurs and licensed childcare providers. So there'll be 2 cohorts. One will be this summer, and that will have 25 residents. That's part of that cohort. Residents receive required childcare business training and certificates, assistance in completing their New York State childcare license applications, and free professional business training, one-on-one coaching. So this is one of our prime programs that we operate through our Lease program. It's always sought after, and everyone's trying to always get into this program. So wanted to make sure we highlighted this for you.
How much more demand is there than we are supplying right now, do you think?
Far more demand. I mean, it's an opportunity because we know it's happening in NYCHA apartments overall. So this is an opportunity for them to actually get the certification and do it, by the book per se. So I would say vastly more than what we're offering. And lastly, NYCHA Youth Build Program. So NYCHA has recently been awarded a $1.3 million grant by the U.S. Department of Labor for our Youth Build grant to provide training and employment services in an ongoing effort to expand access to apprenticeship opportunities, prepare young workers for quality jobs, and strengthening the national workforce to meet industry demands. They receive technical and lab hands-on classroom construction skill and construction safety training. They receive hands-on construction skills application through the renovation of 3 vacant apartments, which we always talk about these vacant apartments, so at least 3 of them will be done by our Youth Build program. Our high school equivalency instruction, leadership development including community service, and after they finish the program, 12 months of job placement, supportive services, and post-program follow-up support. And then I would like to thank you all. I hope you enjoyed it. And any questions?
Is this our first youth build program?
It's not our first, but it's probably the largest. Don't quote me, but it's probably the largest, and I can get back to you with that information.
That's fine, I just was curious because it's a great feeder
Yes,
into our
absolutely.
contractors. And so having that opportunity is
Yes.
super, it's
And
great.
it's going to be in the Brownsville area, which of course is the largest concentration of public housing, so.
Super,
And
excellent.
Are these all programs that we fund ourselves, or are they some of them funded by the fund?
Foundation.
No, well, not the, well, that and also the
Nonprofit, community
the
fund.
foundation, the community foundation.
Yep.
Yeah, we work in partnership with them.
So some of what we're looking at here is funded by the community foundation as well.
But the youth build is a federal grant.
That's a
We
federal
receive.
grant, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
What about the childcare?
Business training.
That- I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get it to you.
Foundation can use more funds.
Yeah.
These great programs.
Any of these programs, we always want more funds, so any way we can get it, we can get it.
Thank you, that's great.
Couple of things. When you mentioned the food programs that we have going on, last year I had difficulty finding out where do I go to find out if a development has been authorized and went through all the checkpoints before they started handing out food.
Yeah.
And was it controlled? So if this year I find developments that are doing this and the residents are asking me to check to see if it's, who do I call?
Me?
Okay. Okay.
Simple, that's the
So-
easiest question I'm gonna have all day.
So that's one thing.
But we can share a list with you ahead of time, which we already have the list, and if it's
Okay.
it grows, we can share the update.
Okay, thanks. The other thing is, there's another gathering that I didn't see you mention, and I'm sure you'll remember as soon as I say it, with community and the NYPD, as well as the associations and staff, and that is National Night Out, where we, the residents and the NYPD and NYCHA get in and say, we're taking the streets tonight. And let's celebrate that. And so this year, they're actually doing it at a packed, one of them is being done at a packed development, which surprised me immensely but made me very happy. And so do we get to get that listing as well? To,
Yes.
whoever wants to attend those?
Yeah, absolutely. We met with our partners at NYPD actually yesterday to talk about all of these events. So we can share, again, we'll share the family day, and then we have the listing as we have it today with the locations, but it is fluid and it may change, so we can share the listing with you also.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah, Leroy. Love Family Day, love the harvest. I have a question. When we have the activities for the youth, the kids, and we do a conversion, even with Preservation Trust or through Pack and HUD, do we have any information for the kids that are on Pack to have somewhere to go to enjoy these activities now that the conversion has been done?
Yeah, so DYCD still operates the Cornerstone even after conversion. So it's the same, again, I know it's potato, but they have the same opportunities the same way in the public housing resident staff.
Like,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Leroy.
Thank you.
Yes. Just to remind respectfully the board members, to the extent you're speaking, that you turn on your microphone so that the folks online can actually hear the discussion, the conversation. So we will move right along to our calendared items, 1 through 30. And I'm going to call it item number 1, Jean.
Good morning.
Proceed, thanks.
Good morning, board members and guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jean Montesir, Deputy Director of the Revenue and Receivables Department. I am presenting Resolution 1, which seeks authorization to enter into an agreement with Last Parking, New York, New Jersey, for the administration of the authority's parking permit program, commencing May 30th, 2024, and continuing through May 29th, 2029. The agreement is for 5 years with an initial 3-year term and 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised by the authority's discretion. The not-to-exceed amount of this agreement is $7,019,899. The services required includes, but is not limited to, creation and distribution of parking permits to residents and other authorized parties, collection and remittance of parking permit fees into the authority's bank accounts, responding to customers' inquiries, maintaining wait lists, conducting inspections of parking lots, enforcing compliance with the authority's parking permit regulations, managing the relocation and reassignment of parking permit holders who are impacted by the temporary or permanent construction at the parking lots. Therefore, I recommend that the board members approve such resolution. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Vice Chair.
Yes. When the residents are inquiring about the parking space and or their applications, do they have to go through the management office or can they go directly to LAS?
They should first go through the management office. Management office should have the information at hand and redirect it. If there's any questions that they're not able to answer, redirect it to our office.
And then they will either contact the resident directly or management?
We would directly contact the resident through LAS. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item 2, Dan.
Madam Secretary, before we go to number 2, I'd like to point out that I am disapproving of this particular resolution.
So noted. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Hi, good morning, board members. I'm here today to present calendar item number 2, which is the authorization to enter into an agreement with Kraus Management, Inc. Kraus Management, Inc. is a private management company that manages several NYCHA properties in Manhattan and the Bronx. They are currently a vendor, and this contract is a new RFP for a new contract. They were the sole bidder on the contract. So the properties in the Bronx are Harrison Avenue Rehab, Group A, Harrison Avenue Rehab, Group B, University Avenue Rehab. In Manhattan, it's rehab program or the Douglas Rehabs, the Taft Rehabs, 154 West 84th Street, Lower East Side 3, and Stanton Street. So this authorization is requested to enter into this agreement with Kraus Management for property management services at Bronx Area 3 and Manhattan Area 1, commencing on May 30th, 2024 and continuing through May 29th, 2029, or commencing on such other date as may be determined by the Chief Procurement Officer or the Executive Vice President for property management operations. It will continue for 5 years thereafter, and that includes a 3-year term and a 2-year renewal option to be exercised at the authority's sole discretion. The total contract amount is $44,240,950.80. And the projected Section 3 labor hours are 66,000 out of 240,000 hours. So I respectfully request authorization to enter into this agreement.
Thank you, Dan. There are no questions.
Questions?
No questions. Thank you. Item 3, Cindy. Oh.
How many units is this? Like how big is the?
Sure, just give me a moment, I'll give you the total unit count.
Sorry, what was the question?
How many units? Like what's the scale?
And I had a question, there was only one bidder for this contract?
Yes, there was one bidder, they're the current manager of this.
And may I answer for you?
Yes, go ahead, yes.
414 Bronx units and 372 Manhattan units.
So about 800 in total.
Dispersed.
Yeah, dispersed throughout, and these tend to be smaller buildings, compared to other NYCHA developments, and they're more quote unquote scatter sites, so they're not, large developments like a traditional, like a Wagner.
No additional questions? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cindy Anderson, Vice President of IT Service Management. I'm presenting item number 3 for your consideration on behalf of the Information Technology Department. This item is a request to enter into an agreement with Lexmark International Incorporated, or Lexmark, for maintenance, service, and support of printers and multifunctional devices. The agreement with Lexmark, commencing on June 1st, 2024 and continuing through May 31st, 2029, includes an initial term of 3 years plus 2 one-year renewal options and has a not-to-exceed amount of $4,437,429.45. Through this contract, Lexmark provides critically needed support for over 1,000 printing devices that serve the authority's printing and scanning needs. The scope includes maintenance and support of regular printers as well as multifunction devices, or MFDs, which are large capacity units that provide the ability to copy, scan, email, and fax documents in addition to printing files. The services provided by Lexmark will include regular on-site maintenance and repairs performed by Lexmark staff, as well as printer supplies and monitoring services. Over 80% of the authority's printing needs serve the borough and development offices in support of operations communications and resident outreach, such as printing notices for upcoming events, maintenance work, planned outages or inspections, or providing ad hoc receipts or documentation to residents as needed by property management staff. Printed copies of work orders may also serve as emergency backup for tracking maintenance operations work. The agreement was procured by a competitive RFP advertised in the City Record and released on July 26, 2023, which sought proposals from qualified firms to manage NYCHA's fleet of printers and MFDs located throughout the 5 boroughs. 7 vendors submitted proposals, with 5 eliminated as non-responsive. An evaluation team reviewed the remaining proposals and selected Lexmark based on predefined selection criteria. Lexmark's Section 3 and Resident Economic Opportunity Plan was approved. The plan includes an estimate that 6,060 of the projected 18,180 labor hours will be provided by Section 3 workers, including a new hire for a break-fix technician, working in coordination with NYCHA's Office of Resident Economic Empowerment and Sustainability to source qualified NYCHA residents. Under other opportunities, Lexmark has indicated a commitment to provide training on servicing Lexmark printers, including 20 slots allocated to train NYCHA residents. Happy to answer questions.
There are none. Thank you, Cindy. Lillian, item 4.
Good morning, NYCHA board members. My name is Lillian Harris. I'm the Vice President for Lease Housing. I'm here to present calendar item 4, seeking authorization to approve a contract capacity increase to the agreement with CVR for Housing Choice Voucher Services authorized by Board Resolution 23-11/30-10 for a 4-year, 1-month, and 26-day term to increase the not-to-exceed amount by $1.8 million to $6,682,500. This increase is necessary to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the term, which commenced on February 6, 2023, and is continuing through March 31st, 2027. Thank you for your consideration, and I welcome any questions.
None. Thank you, Lillian.
Thank you for your time.
Jimmy, item 5.
Good morning, board members. Jimmy Santana, VP for Brooklyn Operations. For your consideration, I will be presenting item number 5, respectively. Item number 5 is authorization to contract capacity increase to Infinite Delivery Indefinite Quantity IDIQ contract number 222-0002, awarded to JP Honda Construction, Inc., JP Honda. Locations is various citywide. Administrating department is Bronx Property Management. Funding source is federal, and the amount is $1,875,000. Projected Section 3 hours, labor hours are 7,070 of 28,280. Authorization is requested to approve a contract capacity increase to this IDIQ contract awarded to JP Honda for janitorial debris removal, sanitizing of basements and crawl space areas, emergency pumping and canopy cleaning, authorized by Board Resolution 23-5/24-16 for an initial 3-year term with a 1-year renewal option to increase the not-to-exceed amount in order to fund the continued provisions of services through the remainder of the initial 3-year term, which commenced on June 27, 2023, and is continuing through June 26, 2026. Any questions regarding item number 5, respectively, board?
Thank you, Jimmy. Tony, 6 and 7.
Morning. Board members and colleagues, my name is Tony Maldonado, Vice President of Purchasing, Logistics and Inventory, and I will be presenting items number 6 and 7 on behalf of the Supply Management and Procurement Department for your consideration. Please note that both these items are both contracts for goods only, so a Section 3 hiring plan is not required. Item number 6 seeks authorization to approve a contract capacity increase to this requirement contract awarded to Pest Supply Shop Incorporated, DBA Environmental Chemical, in the amount of $1,788,491.35 for the purchase and delivery of restricted pest control items. This is a 5-year requirement contract. This contract capacity increase is required to provide capacity for the remainder of the contract term. The authority's cost estimate for the quantity of these items to be released during the duration of this requirement contract was hindered by both the COVID-19 pandemic and the decreased usage of these items during this time period. A vendor name check is not required.
Proceed.
Item number 7 seeks authorization to ratify a contract capacity increase to this requirement contract award to Temco Glass Fabrication LLC, referred to as Temco, in the amount of $1,747,819.28 for the purchase and delivery of structural glass supplies. This is a requirement contract with a term of 2 years with 3 1-year renewal options. This contract capacity increase is necessary for Temco to continue to provide the authority with structural glass supplies. Presently, the authority faces a significant backlog and experiences ongoing demand for structural glass, placing strain on daily operations.
None. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Jacqueline, 8 through 10.
Good morning, board members. My name is Jacqueline Sullivan. I'm the Vice President for Healthy Homes, and I'm presenting on items 8, 9, and 10 today. Item 8 is requesting authorization to approve a contract capacity increase to CAM Consultants Corps for lead-based paint XRF inspection services. The increase to the not-to-exceed amount is $3,125,000, which is needed to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 2-year term and the 1-year renewal option term. This contract has a total projected labor hours of 45,760 with 11,440 Section 3 labor hours. Items 9 and 10 are requesting authorization to approve a ratification for 2 related contract capacity increases for lead-based paint abatement services in occupied and unoccupied apartments. Each contract has an increase to the not-to-exceed amount of $15 million, which is needed to fund the continued provisions of services during the remainder of the initial 2-year term and the first 1-year renewal option term. Item 9 is for Empire Control abatement for a total projected labor hours of 8,000 with 2,000 Section 3 labor hours. Item 10 is for New York Environmental Systems for a total projected labor hours of 168,480 with 42,128 Section 3 labor hours. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Okay. John, 11 and 12.
Good morning. I'm John Mauser, Director of Real Estate Services here at NYCHA. I'll be presenting items number 11 and number 12. As to number 11, with this resolution, I'm seeking authorization to enter into this agreement with George S. Hall for engineering, technical services, and facilities management services and data center critical environments services at the authority's central office locations. The agreement will commence on May 30th, 2024, or on another mutually agreed upon date and continue for 5 years thereafter, which includes an initial 3-year term and 2 1-year renewal options to be exercised at the authority's sole discretion. George S. Hall will provide the authority with engineering, technical services, facilities management services, at all 7 of the authority's central office locations. Examples of engineering, technical services, and facility management services include developing a consolidated asset management strategy for each of the in-scope locations, conducting an annual facility condition assessment for input into budgeting, and performing overall oversight of the facilities with the goal of delivering safe and clean work environments. George S. Hall will also provide continual monitoring for reductions and interruptions of service for the authority's critical environments at the authority's 2 central office locations that have data centers and 24/7 operations. These are 90 Church Street and Long Island City Office. The total not to exceed amount of the agreement is $18,847,365. On September 28, 2023, the authority issued a request for proposals to provide the authority with these services. The RFP was advertised in the city record and on the authority's website. Prospective proposers were invited to attend a pre-submission conference on October 13, 2023, and to submit questions concerning the RFP via email on October 30th. Responses to questions by the proposers were available for viewing on October 27, 2023 on iSupplier. Of the 3 proposals submitted, 1 vendor was deemed non-responsive for failure to meet minimum qualifications. The remaining 2 proposals were evaluated by an evaluation committee consisting of voting representatives from IT, Department of Real Estate Services, and the Office of the Chief Executive Officer. Based on the ratings of the proposals by the committee, administration recommends that the authority enter into this contract with George S. Hall for these services. George S. Hall's Section 3 hiring plan was approved under the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development labor hours. George S. Hall indicated on its Section 3 hiring plan that the total estimated labor hours are 101,232, and the Section 3 total projected labor hours is 0. George S. Hall has committed under other economic opportunities to provide pre-apprenticeship training opportunities to authority residents. A vendor name check requested on March 1, 2024 is pending. I'm requesting your approval to enter into this agreement with George S. Hall for the 5-year term, which includes 2 one-year renewal options for this not to exceed amount of $18,847,365. Any questions?
There are no questions, John, but I do not wish to interfere with your flow, but just so you know, you do not need to go into the RFP and the pre-submission conference or the committee. So just pretty much present everything else.
Okay.
But you did a great job.
I do have one question. Why wouldn't they commit to Section 3 hours? Respecting the pre-apprenticeship training, but what's the rationale for not having any Section 3 hours?
I don't know, but I will find out. I believe that it relates to the trades that are involved under the contract, but we will get you that answer.
Thank you.
Board member, there's an option of labor hours or other economic opportunities, and for GSH has committed under other economic opportunities to provide pre-apprenticeship training opportunities to authority residents. GHS expects to provide 1 position as a call taker at a call center for 40 hours a week for the duration of the agreement. John, please proceed to the next item.
Presenting number 12. With this resolution, I'm seeking authorization to enter into an agreement with M2 Pros for space, move and project planning and management services at the authority's central office locations. The agreement is for a 5-year term, an initial term of 3 years with 2 one-year options. M2 Pros will provide the authority with project coordination and management, space planning, and move management services at the same central office locations I mentioned in item number 11. Examples of services include managing improvement and renovation projects, performing strategic planning for space scenarios, and providing move management resources and reconfigurations of space and workstations. The total not to exceed amount of the agreement is $19,392,192.50. A vendor name check requested on March 1, 2024 is still pending. I'm requesting your approval to enter into this agreement with M2 Pros for the 5 years indicated for a not to exceed amount of $19,392,192.50.
Thank you, John. Just want to add that the Section 3 projected labor hours is 9,360 of a total of 18,720 labor hours. You're welcome. There appears to be no questions, so thank you so much, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item 13, Shireen.
Good morning, board members. My name is Shireen Riazi Kermani. I am the Director of Environmental Hazards for the Real Estate Development Department. I am presenting item number 13 for your consideration, which seeks authorization to ratify a contract capacity increase to a contract for environmental consulting services for various PACT developments. The total increase amount is $750,000. The background for this request is as follows. The contract for environmental consulting services was awarded to STV Incorporated and commenced in July of 2020. The contract number is 2007315. The term of the contract is an initial 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options, which will continue automatically for a total term of 5 years. The agreement was awarded by the Real Estate Development Department. The original not to exceed amount for the contract was $500,000. The vendor provides as needed environmental consulting services for the PACT program, including but not limited to procedural review and advice in support of pre-development and converted PACT projects. Additionally, as the PACT program requires the projects be abated of lead-based paint, this vendor provides monitoring services for lead-based paint abatement occurring in converted PACT projects, a service that is critical to the health and safety of residents. The reason for this request is as follows. At the time that the RFP for the agreement with STV was issued, there were fewer authority developments in phases that required environmental consulting services of the vendor. With increases to the number of authority developments in phases requiring these services, particularly those developments that are converted and under construction and performing lead-based paint abatement, demand for their services has increased. The Real Estate Development Department estimates an additional $750,000 will be required for this contract to address the increased work. We are not requesting an extension of the term of the contract. There are 0 projected labor hours and 0 projected Section 3 labor hours. However, the vendor has provided a Section 3 plan to NYCHA that committed to subcontracting with Belgrave Enterprises LLC, a Section 3 business concern. Vendor name check is not required. Thank you for your consideration. Any questions?
There are no questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
JR. Items 14 and 15.
Good morning, board members. My name is J.R. Reed. I'm a project manager on the transactions team in the Real Estate Development Department, and I will be presenting item numbers 14 and 15 for your consideration. For item 14, we are seeking board approval relating to the conversion of the PSS Grandparent Family Apartments in the Bronx from federal Section 9 funding to federal project-based Section 8. This conversion is not a PACT project, and we are seeking board approval solely for the purposes of authorizing NYCHA's application to HUD for the conversion of subsidy. The project at hand is a development that first opened in 2005 on land on the corner of Prospect Avenue and East 163rd Street in the Bronx, as you can see on the screen over there. It was ground leased from NYCHA to the West Side Federation for Senior and Supportive Housing, also known as WishFish. WishFish is a nonprofit that houses over 2,500 people in 30 buildings located on the Upper West Side in Harlem, Chelsea, and the Bronx. This building is a 6-story, 51-unit rental project that receives Section 9 operating but not capital subsidy. Occupancy is restricted to senior caregivers who are raising minor age relatives with absent parents. The senior caregivers also must prove that they have guardianship, adoption, or kinship foster care custody. To continue to operate and maintain the development, we are seeking board approval to convert from Section 9 subsidy to a project-based Section 8 subsidy through HUD's Section 18 disposition process. Because Section 9 operating subsidy has not been adequate to make the necessary capital repairs or maintain operating reserves. For example, a recent physical needs assessment, or P&A, identified over $3 million in repairs needed over 15 years. Reserves have also been almost fully depleted as of March of this year, and given recent flooding issues, upgrades are needed to protect the building during future storms and heavy rain events. Residents at the PSS Grandparent Family Apartments will benefit from a more stable source of federal funding to make necessary building repairs and maintenance. So to effectuate this conversion, NYCHA would enter into a project-based Section 8 HAP contract with Wishfish and administer the HUD Section 8 subsidy. The New York City Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development issued a letter of support for the proposed conversion earlier this month. Additionally, Wishfish has engaged and will continue to engage residents throughout the process via meetings and written notices. Wishfish anticipates that the conversion will take place later this year. Thank you, and please let me know if you have any questions on item number 14.
So this isn't really a packed
Correct.
conversion, this is just a straight Section 9, Section 8, Section 18, done.
Exactly.
There's no private management, there's no private, none of that stuff that's usually see here.
Right, exactly.
It already exists.
Exactly, it's
We kind
privately
of went
owned.
in a reverse strange order with this.
Because of which, right,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
right, okay, got it, yeah.
So it's NYCHA land, but it's privately owned
Got it.
and built building.
I got it.
Vice Chair?
Great.
I'm sorry, did you just say it's NYCHA land, but it's privately owned?
Privately managed and built, yeah.
The land is NYCHA land, but the building is privately owned and operated. It was built by Wishfish, so.
Okay, okay. Because I was a little confused, because I always thought that any conversions that was done on NYCHA property, and that we're the ones that dictated who, or should we say, we chose from various different agencies who was gonna run the particular development. And so this private ownership is, and by the way, what happened to Presbyterian? In the beginning of the presentation, you speak of Presbyterian and Wishfish. Then towards the middle of it, Presbyterian disappears and all you talk about is Wishfish. What happened there?
That's right, so right now Wishfish owns 100% of the property, and it's just a matter of kind of the evolution of the project that PSS has left.
So Presbyterian is gone?
Exactly, yes, Presbyterian and Senior Services.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I have a question. Whether it's PAC or trust preservation or personal property with NYCHA turnover, as a resident, and we are remodeling all these buildings, how do we go about keeping up? Like a liaison, I asked that question in the QA and I seen the answer. I'm kind of confused about, the answer from that, which has nothing really to do with a liaison that's coming around, that's checking on buildings that have been turned over from Section 9 to Section 8. So as a tenant, if I see something that was destroyed or that need repairs or need done, how would NYCHA know? Or how would PAC know? As they were saying about a liaison, I have no idea who a liaison is, or not is, or who they are. And is it possible for the board members to know when they go out to these sites?
I would.
Okay, so the
How much?
liaison issue has to do with item 15, correct?
They say 14 and 15.
It depends.
Okay.
I mean, the liaison question in the Q&A was related to item 15, that's correct.
Okay, so it still applies to 14?
It does not necessarily, and that this is not a packed conversion as we just discussed. Okay.
Alright. So you'll address it when you get to item 15, okay?
Yep.
Alrighty, so if there are no further questions with 14, we'll move on to item 15.
Sounds good. Thank you. And now I will present item number 15, and this is a PACT conversion. So we are seeking board approval relating to the PACT conversion of 3 developments in the Bronx: Boston Road Plaza, Boston Secor, and Middletown Plaza. I'll be referring to these 3 buildings together as BBM. The conversion consists of a total of 952 units, including 235 at Boston Road Plaza, 538 at Boston Secor, and 179 at Middletown Plaza. So we first came to the board for this conversion in September of 2022, when we sought board approval to submit the initial applications to HUD. We are now coming back to the board to request authorization to seek the final HUD approvals and enter into documents necessary to close on the PACT conversion at the 3 BBM developments later this year. So through NYCHA's PACT program, NYCHA seeks to convert developments from Section 9 funding to project-based Section 8, which is a more stable source of federal funding. We do this using HUD's Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, known as RAD, and by partnering with a team of private and nonprofit developers, general contractors, property managers, and social service providers. So this was part of PACT Round 11, and some additional details about the procurement are included in your board materials. So the PACT partner chosen for BBM is made up of the following groups. The development team consists of Beacon Communities, Colel, and MBD Community Housing, of which Colel is a certified minority-owned company. The property manager is Wavecrest Management, a non-minority entity. The general contractor is Natias Construction, also a non-minority entity. So upon receipt of our initial RAD application, which was authorized by our prior board resolution, HUD issued its initial approval for the transaction through its commitment to enter into a housing assistance payment contract on January 10th, 2023. At closing, NYCHA and the PACT partner will enter into a housing assistance payment, also known as a HAP contract, which will be administered by the authority's leased housing department. The transaction remains subject to HUD's RAD and Section 18 approvals, which are required prior to closing. The New York City Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development issued a letter of support for the proposed transaction back in September of 2022. So recapitalizing and rehabilitating BBM's 3 developments is anticipated to cost approximately $480 million. HDC will oversee the financing of this transaction, which is anticipated to include a permanent loan to be issued or arranged by HDC. NYCHA will rely on HDC's sponsor review process in lieu of an independent vendor name check, and HDC's sponsor review is in process and will be completed prior to closing. The final transaction budget is also subject to approval by NYCHA, by HDC, and by HUD. So regarding the project scope of work, a capital needs assessment, or CNA, has been completed. The CNA assesses current needs and serves as an update on the content in NYCHA's current physical needs assessment, or PNA. NYCHA will approve the scope of work and confirm that it addresses all the items both in the PNA and in the CNA. The scope of work will be finalized before closing and will be presented to residents before construction starts. The scope of work generally includes work addressing needs in interior units, hallways, lobbies, mechanical systems, building facades, among other items. Residents at Boston Road Plaza, Boston Secor, and Middletown Plaza will all benefit from a comprehensive renovation of their homes and from HUD's resident protections and affordability restrictions. They will also have the same basic rights as they do under the public housing program. The resident benefits are itemized in further detail in your board materials as well. So the authority and the PACT partner have met with residents and will continue to engage with residents throughout the process via meetings and written notices. NYCHA and the PACT developer have held 26 meetings across the 3 sites since designation, And residents are also advised of their ability to access Legal Aid Society's hotline to discuss further questions regarding the conversion. In terms of resident hiring, the PAC partner has provided a hiring plan that outlines labor hours and training opportunities and other economic opportunities, the details of which are provided in the board materials as well. It's estimated the project will generate 450,465 projected total labor hours and 112,616 projected Section 3 labor hours. We are anticipating that the PAC conversion will take place later this year, and we will work with our partners to ensure that the transition is as smooth as possible. Thanks very much, and please let me know if you have any questions on item number 15.
Okay, so the question would be, after the conversions, are there any liaisons assigned to check on the upkeep of the buildings?
And I would direct that question to the Vice President of our department, Marissa Schaefer.
I can take that. Board Member McCoy, I think you.
Yes.
Good morning.
Well, let me reiterate that also. I mean, all buildings, not just PAC. Trust preservation, the new, is there upkeep on a liaison for all conversions?
Sure. Well, I can only speak to the PACT converted properties. There haven't been any properties converted through the trust as of yet. The Real Estate Development Department oversees the conversions of these properties. So as a general matter, that would be the first place you would go with any questions or concerns following the conversion. If there's anything specific that you have in mind, I'm happy to connect with you after the board meeting and answer any of your questions.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can just add, with respect to the trust properties, NYCHA is going to be managing those properties. So we will have an idea of what's going on at those properties.
She just answered my question.
Okay. Member McCoy, are you
Yes,
good?
that's good, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, JR and Marissa. And item 16, that's James.
Morning, everyone. My name is James Hall. I'm a senior project manager on the transactions team in the real estate development department, and I'll be presenting item number 16. We're seeking board approval related to the granting of a subsurface easement below vacant land at NYCHA's Wagner houses in East Harlem to the MTA to facilitate the 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 project. The MTA's 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 project will expand subway service into East Harlem along 2nd Avenue from 96th Street to 125th Street. The MTA identified approximately 19,314 square feet below, more than 60 feet below open space. The open space along 2nd Avenue between East 124th and East 125th Streets at Wagner houses that it requires to allow the subway to turn from 2nd Avenue onto East 125th Street. The tunnel will not be directly underneath any buildings at Wagner houses. The expansion of the 2nd Avenue subway will provide increased transit access to thousands of East Harlem residents and especially benefit those living at NYCHA developments in East Harlem along 2nd Avenue. Pursuant to a license agreement, the MTA's contractors will implement a required monitoring program within the granted easement in advance of the tunnel construction, which will monitor for noise, vibration, tilt, and settlement. MTA's contractors will also be required to mitigate for rodent vectors in the construction area work zones and work with agency partners such as the Mayor's Rat Task Force and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. The MTA is anticipated to compensate NYCHA the fair market value of the easement, approximately $620,000, which has been verified by a third-party appraiser engaged by the authority. The authority and the MTA have met with Wagner Houses Resident Association on February 7th, 2024, and also held a large hybrid in-person and virtual meeting on April 1st, 2024. The authority met with the Resident Advisory Board to discuss the project on May 7th and May 9th of this year. The New York City Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development issued a letter of support for the proposed easement on May 6th, 2024. The MTA is subject to environmental review under applicable local, state, and federal law, which will be completed prior to any work beginning in the easement area. Thank you, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Just a suggestion. From my military days, I'm very familiar with aerial views. For example, Exhibit D. So, just in the future, if you're going to use an aerial view and you're gonna show the buildings, okay, make sure it shows all of them. I got a little confused, because I know I've been at Wagner, there's 22 buildings, and you can only see 17 in the aerial view. Because you put that dot there, just make sure that any aerial views shows the entire development. So we know exactly. It's a little confusing.
Sorry about that.
Thanks.
Okay, there are no questions. No further questions? Thank you. Items 17 through 29. Michael Turnbull.
Good morning, everybody. I'm filling in for Oliver. My name is Mike Flandorf from Capital. I'm going to start with items 17, 18, and 19 because they're all related. For items 17, 18, and 19, we seek authorization to award these 3 IDIQ job contracts for installation of closed-circuit television, otherwise known as CCTVs, and land access control systems at various developments in the not-to-exceed amount of $10 million each. All 3 are to be awarded to CSI Security and Electric, Inc., doing business as Centennial Security Integration, with a bid factor of 0.9963. NYCHA's estimated bid factor for these was 1.4 based on current market conditions and bid factors received by NYCHA and other agencies. There is a 28% variance to NYCHA's benefit between CSI's and the authority's bid factors, which can be directly attributed to CSI being an experienced, full-service video surveillance and security solutions company that owns all required equipment and is able to perform all of its work in-house without subcontracting. Also, CSI purchases major components in bulk and services that other vendors normally subcontract, directly eliminating those costs and related markups. The term for the IDIQ jobs is 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised at NYCHA's sole discretion. The projected Section 3 labor hours are $5,000 for all 3 contracts, which represents 25% of the overall labor. Are there any questions?
Proceed.
Moving on, I'm going to be presenting items 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27 combined. We seek authorization to award 8 IDIQ contracts for brick repair work at various developments citywide in the not-to-exceed amounts of $100 million each. 2 of these contracts are to be awarded to J&N Construction Group Corp. 2 contracts are to be awarded to Romer Scaffolding. 2 contracts are to be awarded to Zoria Housing LLC. 2 contracts are to be awarded to P&K Contract. The terms of the IDIQs are 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised at NYCHA's sole discretion. The combined projected labor hours of 2,158,904 hours, broken down by 650,000 hours with the J&N contracts, 360,000 hours with the Roma contracts, 508,904 hours with the Zoria contracts, and 640,000 hours of labor for the P&K contracts, which each represents approximately 25% of the overall labor hours for each of the contracts. For some additional insight, there are currently 6 brickwork contracts utilized for facade repairs and also installation and maintenance of protection sheds and fencing, which is coming out of the Local Law 11 facade inspections, which are expiring at the end of this year. These 8 new contracts at $100 million each with the 4 vendors are required to perform work over the next few years, including maintenance of fenced-in areas that are maintained now by property staff under current contracts. The cost of currently installed shedding from previous investment cycles is approximately $13 million per year for the maintenance. And there's about 140,000 linear feet or 27,000 miles at 425 buildings. That approximates to about $1.1 million in rent and maintenance per month. We project a new cost for shedding from the current Local Law 11 Cycle 9 and the future Cycle 10 cycles are going to be about $17 million per year, which are projected at about 300 buildings inspected per year. And we estimate and project that 50% of the buildings inspected will be deemed unsafe, requiring installation of sheds. There are 300 linear feet of shedding required per building on average, for a total of approximately 45,000 linear feet per year. The projected facade repairs, which is approximately $600 million of repair work anticipated in the next 5 years. We have about $323 million in state grant disbursement agreements, which are our GADAs, executed from December for facade repairs at 124 buildings and 29 developments to be completed by the end of 2026. NYCHA is proposing additional facade repairs for a portion of $140 million in state appropriation this past April. And we project another $200 million in potential federal emergency grants over 5 years based on previous experience. Are there any questions?
Yeah. So just so I understand, so this is $800 million total.
Mhm.
Is that assume the extension of the contracts?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a total, how many years total would this be?
5.
5 years, so the way to think about this is an $800 million group of contracts for 5 years.
Correct.
Okay, not to exceed.
Not to
Okay, of which 25% is the scaffolding and 75% is the labor and stuff.
Yes.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. And these companies do, one of them is actually called something scaffolding, but they all do the scaffolding and where they sub out the scaffolding.
And they either do the work themselves and or sub portions of the work out.
Got it. Is there any way of telling, I mean, so total ignorance here, but I assume the scaffolding goes up, the order of businesses, well, actually, let me back up. Some of this is for scaffolding that is already up there. So it's just ongoing, it's maintenance of the scaffolding while we do the repair work. So this isn't all new work, this is some new scaffolding, some old scaffolding, some.
There's about $13 million a year in
Existing.
scaffolding maintenance.
Right.
So of this $800 million, approximately $13 million of that is gonna replace the scaffolding that's up on contracts that are going to expire this year.
So take it down, put it back up, new scaffolding.
Yes.
That seems like a great use of money. This is not your doing, I understand. So the order of business, generally speaking, is maybe scaffolding's in place already, but one way or the other, an inspection gets done. There's a finding that there needs to be work done on the facade. This is all local law 11. The scaffolding goes up because there's a danger, so the scaffolding have to protect people while we wait for the work to get done. Then the work gets done, then the scaffolding comes down.
Correct.
Okay. Is there some way of telling how long the scaffolding is up before, during, and after the work? So in other words, you would think that once the work is done, the scaffolding comes down, we stop paying for the scaffolding. Is that in fact how it works, or is it in fact, or does the scaffolding stay up for a long time?
Once the work is done, it has to be inspected and signed off by DOB before NYCHA is allowed to remove the shedding.
And how long does that take typically?
Depends on the site, depends on how the funding comes. There's excess amount of work required versus funding in hand. So I'd have to have the local law 11 team to get you facts and figures.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think the issue is, we're putting up shedding in response to local law inspections that find deficiencies, but it doesn't mean we necessarily have the work to complete the actual facade repairs. And so the shedding goes up indefinitely until that funding is secured in order to do the full facade work.
Got it.
And we should follow up as well. We have a huge initiative to get sheds down, and NYCHA's participating in that and probably has the most scaffolding of any entity in the city. So I know there's a lot of work being done to figure out how to do that and use alternative means, netting and other things. But I think the key is the money's not there to do the work. So we're stuck with a lot of scaffolding.
And as folks remember, we had an earthquake earlier this year. That little shaky stuff has a tendency to loosen brick. So like the cycle 10 inspection coming up is gonna be uber important.
Sort of a follow-up question on the money. This is 10% of our capital 5-year program, because it's $8 billion. So do we have all the funding in place for the $800 million?
Not yet.
So there's a prioritization that will have to happen.
This is a not to exceed so that we have capacity to execute work. So that when the fund is received, we have contracts to execute.
But it
So
is in the,
it's not 800 million of money in hand today that we could run out and do work. No.
but it is in the $8 billion capital program for the 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah, but not funded yet. So
Correct.
there'll be prioritization that's gonna have to happen.
Yes, and as new work approaches, people say something fell. There's gonna be work on top of even the cycle 10 cycles that come in because of emergencies. It's, yeah.
Huge.
Huge.
And these are not all new contractors, some of them had the existing contracts as well?
Some of them have existing contracts as well.
Okay.
And they've been vetted by the teams and deemed responsible and, recommended.
Okay, thank you.
Questions proceed?
Item 28, I'm gonna present item 28. We seek authorization to reject all bids for a contract for gas piping replacement at Washington Houses. The lowest bidder was deemed non-responsive for failure to submit their bid bonds, and the remaining bids exceeded the NYCHA estimate by over 30%. ANCM Capital will evaluate specifications and rebid the contract. Item 29. We seek authorization to reject all bids for contract for the replacement of underground steam and condensate piping distribution systems at Bronx River Houses. An inconsistency with the requirements for licensing was found within the bid documents, which may have caused confusion amongst potential bidders. ANCM is going to correct the language and then rebid the contracts.
No questions? Thank you so much, appreciate it, Michael. And, yes,
I just need, I must apologize for this. I must apologize. I was looking at my notes that you were going through, and there was something about the CCTV cameras, that contract. And I had asked that day about how long are the images kept on those cameras. Now, they told me that it's possibly 21 days.
That is correct.
That is the fact.
It's based on the hardware that we install on site.
Okay.
So in order to record an image, we have to have a hard drive to capture all the electronics.
And we have the ability within, and when I say we, I mean the management office and staff has the ability that if they're given a certain date and time, they can go back to that particular image.
Yes, they also have the ability, if something happens over a weekend, to check the camera on site. They have a SOC, and they could look for these red line with spikes, so they could see where activity occurred. And then they could contact our colleagues in the Office of Safety and Security to burn those images and give them to the police department for prosecution.
So that means you don't have to be there 24 hours a day. The staff or the superintendent doesn't have to be there 24 hours a day to find a particular incident.
Correct.
It'll be, thank you very much.
It's helpful when people report the instances. So
Okay.
if a TA president or somebody observes something over the weekend, if it's reported briefly, management could find it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I just want to add that the CCTV recordings are saved for 21 days before being overwritten. So after 21 days, it no longer exists essentially, okay? Alrighty. Oh, 30.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Delamonte, Deputy Director for Comprehensive Modernization Unit, and today I'm presenting Board Resolution 24-5/29-30 for the purpose of amending Board Resolution 23-11/30-21, where the authority entered into 7 agreements with 7 firms for CMA services for the authority's CompMod Program Department projects for a combined not to exceed of $300 million. Subsequent to board authorization, it was discovered that Board Resolution 23-11/30-21 contained an error. The contract number 232-7238, the agreement with CHA Consulting Incorporated, is incorrectly stated on the board resolution. The correct contract number for the agreement with CHA is 2411787. Therefore, Asset and Capital Management is requesting authorization to amend Board Resolution 23-11/30-21 to reflect the aforementioned change to correct the contract number for the agreement with CHA. A vendor name check is not required.
Okay,
Any
there are no
questions?
questions. Thank you, Chris,
All right,
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
30 items are presented for board approval. May I have a motion to approve the 30 items, noting for the record that Vice Chair Gonzalez disapproved item number 2. Motion?
So moved, Gavin.
Thank you.
Second?
That was Vice Chair. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you so much. Being that all matters before the board today have been addressed, board may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion.
Okay, I'm gonna take Member Miller's motion, seconded by Vice Chair. Okay, thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. The recorded end time, 11:33. Thank you all. The next NYCHA board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 26, 2024 at 10 a.m. See you then. Thanks all.
Thank you.
So, my own question, which I've had in the past, because a lot of residents call me.